This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts. I'm Kyle Hawk, and we are here today with Bob Waeiss of Integrity Automotive in Indianapolis. And we were just discussing the evolution of vehicles when it comes to thinking about winterization and how we should care for our cars during the colder months of the year. And one thing that Bob mentioned was speaking about tires and something that you should put your focus on, of course, any time of year, but as we head towards winter, it's something to think about. And I want to kind of follow up on that a little bit with some questions specifically about tires. What sort of routine maintenance can you perform on your tires to ensure that they're going to last as long as they possibly can?
The biggest thing is going to be tire pressure. You want to maintain sufficient tire pressure, all the tires, all the time. And it's good just to, as you walk out, when you talk about how often you should check a tire, when you walk out to your car to get in, just walk around and look at the tires. After a while, you'll get used to how they look, and when one's low, you're going to say, hey, that doesn't look right, and run it to a shop or wherever you can get air. Had a customer today come in after trying 3 service stations or gas stations and couldn't find any air.
Yeah.
We helped him out a little bit, but air pressure is probably the most important thing. And then next to that is going to be rotating the tires. Your interval for rotating tires is going to be anywhere from maybe 5,000 to 10,000. It depends on the type of driving, depends on how many roundabouts there are where you live.
Sure.
You're going to get a lot of edge wear on if you drive in roundabouts a lot, there's just going to be a lot of edge wear on those roads, especially the right side tires.
Yeah.
So the interval varies. I recommend if you have a regular shop that you go to for service, let them tell you when to rotate. The regular oil change customer is about every other time, so maybe every 75 to 10,000 miles.
Yeah. I want to come back to the tire rotation here in a minute, but to follow up on air pressure, like you mentioned, it's a good thing to just kind of check them out. I know for me, that first day in fall where it drops like 20 degrees in the morning, like I'll go out, turn on the car, and I've got this little indicator light saying that my pressure's low because of that pressure change that happens. And I know this happens for a lot of people, and one of the things that gets asked is, well, how much air pressure needs to be in the tires? So I take it in, put 25 cents in the machine and go to air it up. I mean, how much air should be in there?
The safest way to determine that is the driver's door jamb. There's a little tag, sticker, decal, and it specifies exactly how much the manufacturer recommends. Doing a little research leading into this interview, I've been checking the door posts on these variety of cars, imports, light trucks, and that sort of thing, and they're all down around 30 to 32 psi.
Okay.
I recommend a little bit more than that. I try to stay around 34 to 36. The smaller the car, the less the pressure, because if you air the tires up a lot in a small car, it's going to feel like a buckboard. It's just going to ride real rough. And I think the manufacturers recommend a little bit lower pressure for a little softer, cushier ride, make their passengers more comfortable. For fuel economy, a little more pressure doesn't hurt. The smaller the footprint on the pavement, the better the fuel economy on the car. So my recommendation, 34 to 36. Most manufacturers going to be between 30 and 32 psi.
Okay, yeah, that's excellent. And you talked, of course, a moment ago about how often to rotate the tires. Explain for us the benefit of that tire rotation. Why is that something to think about?
Most of the wear and tear occurs on the front tires. Majority of the cars on the road today are front-wheel drive, so with the engine and transmission weight on those front tires carrying most of that weight, you've got additional wear. The front wheels obviously steer. That scrubbing action as you're making turns is also going to increase the wear and tear. So the front tires just wear out quicker, and you're going to extend the life of those by moving them to the rear and the rear to the front. Some folks cross the tires. We typically go straight forward and straight back when we're rotating tires, but it just kind of evens out the wear and tear lifespan of those tires.
Yeah. And of course, we've all seen a vehicle before that has the tires on it. They're just worn down, almost bare, which is way too far. Is there a way to catch it before that point? Like, how do you tell if your tires are wearing down to a point where you might want to think about either a rotation or a tire change?
The best way to do it is to have it in a shop where you can have it in the air, because it's real easy to look at a tire and have plenty of tread on the outside edge where you can see it, where somebody walking around the car can see it, but it's the inside tread that might be worn out. So if it's in the air, you can actually see how evenly that tire is worn if the alignment's out, for example, which is another maintenance thing you can do to prolong the life of tires.
Yeah.
So for example, if you can get a good view of the tire, start the car, turn the wheel out, use the old Lincoln penny trick where you take a penny, and if it's below Lincoln's hairline or if it's down into his forehead, you've got good enough tread. If it's above his head, then you should consider putting tires on it.
You know, I'm always amazed when I see some of these vehicles where the tread is just worn down so far, because there are dangers to this. Talk with us a little bit about why you don't want your tread wearing down that far.
If they're smooth, obviously you're going to lose traction. I read an item several years ago that when a tire is worn down to 4/30 seconds, and usually they're going to start out at 8/30 seconds or more, you're going to lose 50% of wet traction at 4/30 seconds. So you're halfway worn down on that tread, you lose 50% of wet traction. So if you're in the rain and you're in a panic situation where you got to stop fast, you're not going to stop as well as obviously as you would with new tires. So very important to have decent tread on the tires just for traction purposes, and that's more important for stopping than accelerating.
Sure. Now, is it a good idea to always switch out all 4 tires at once, or are there situations where you could maybe just swap out 2? What is your take on that?
I would decide that on a case-by-case basis. If the vehicle is all-wheel drive, it's important to have all tires pretty similar in wear and tear. It affects the transfer case and the way things work to make it an all-wheel drive vehicle. And there's so many crossovers, little crossovers now that are all-wheel drive. So if it's a all-wheel drive, almost in every case, I'm going to say, replace them all 4 at the same time. If it's not an all-wheel drive, it's not as critical, so it's not necessary.
Yeah. Of course, in addition to tires, another big thing that we think about as we head towards the colder months is the car battery. Is that something people should be concerned about or be thinking about this time of year as we head towards winter?
Definitely. One of the items that we check, especially going into winter, is the battery. Probably the most important thing is the age. We can do a conductance test on it. It tells us the reserve capacity of the battery, which doesn't initially tell us whether or not it's going to stand up under an extended load. It's a quick, easy test, so we do that on almost every car, but that's important. Batteries tend to last 4 to 5 years. So if you're at 4 to 5 years age on your battery, change it, or wait till it dies and then tow it in and have it change it. You get the convenience of replacing it without having to tow the car in and be stuck somewhere possibly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because it seems logical that you would obviously want to change the battery before you end up stuck in a bad situation. Do you find that a lot of people are becoming more aware of that and switching out their batteries every 4 to 5 years?
No. People don't. Just flat out. People tend to react when they have a problem.
Right.
There's a lot of situations where we will recommend a battery based on age and low reserve capacity, and the car still starts fine. So typically the customer says, well, it'll be fine, I'll wait. And then, after a period of time, they're calling us and saying, hey, I'm towing it in, it needs a battery.
It's really fascinating because, it's always just, well, it's an expense, I'll deal with it a little bit
I'm guilty
later.
of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, what kind of cost is somebody looking at for a new battery?
That's a good question. Today's batteries are a little different than not necessarily the way they were constructed, but how well they're constructed. So much increased electronics and electrical components on cars today. The batteries are made much better, and they're designed to handle these loads. So you're going to be $150 to $200 for a battery. You might be able to buy one for $125, something like that. Okay. If you can find a $50 or $75 battery, I wouldn't put it in my car.
Yeah. Now, are you offering options? Like, there's different brands and types to choose from that might fit the same vehicle, correct?
Yes, you can buy an economy battery, and depending on the scenario, our typical customer is a family with driving children. Well, the kids' car may not get the heaviest duty battery.
Right.
There is a lighter duty version, and there's a good, better, and best sort of approach. So, you do have options, and you don't have to put the biggest and the toughest battery in your car.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for us to step away for another brief break, but we've got more car talk on the way. When we come back, we're going to share some quick car tips, and we'll also take your listener questions and get you some answers from Bob Waeiss of Integrity Auto. You're listening to Chat with the Experts.
10 million verified reviews. Search for local providers from anywhere in the country. Trusted ratings. Convenient offers for services from highly rated companies. Tips and advice from the award-winning Angie's List magazine. These are just a few of the benefits that come with an Angie's List membership, including a new free membership plan. Learn more and join for free at angieslist.com today.